My name is Yaara Dolev. I'm a choreographer, performer, healer, Gaga facilitator, and the founder of The Key.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in the desert part of Israel, very connected to this part of my childhood, to Israel, the desert above the Dead Sea. It's also infected my choreography, the flavor, the connection to this desert sensation. And then I moved to Berlin, and now I'm here in Portugal.
What was it about the desert? I'm curious about that. What is special about the desert that informed you? Like, give me an example, maybe.
The desert for me is, first of all, you really have to take it seriously. It's so powerful. And when you sit there on a mountain and you feel the breeze and you see these 100 shades of brown that are changing every moment of the day. It's like from pinkish brown to almost white to chocolate brown, and there's something so royal in a way, you know. It's so powerful, and you have this horizon that is endless, a bit like watching the sea, but it's a desert with its shades, and there's something that feels very ancient. It's not like fresh trees. It's something like old, that was there forever, and vast and quiet and powerful. You don't have these sounds of lots of birds or cicada, or it's just quiet, and it's there, and there's a sense of power, like quiet power, that, you know, if you don't know how to deal with it, you can die in a day. But if you do know how to sort of tune your rhythm into it, you are riding a beautiful journey.
Your great-grandparents also had this amazing place that you partially grew up in, or even the house of your parents. How did that? Do you want to talk about this just a little bit? How did that the magic, in a way, there was like a magic quality to it that I think influenced you?
As a choreographer, I feel really attached to architecture. And some of the pieces that I did were really influences by different corners in Tel Aviv or the Shibuya in Japan. And my mom, she's a PhD of the theory of architecture. And we always, since I remember myself, we had these talks about architecture and finding really interesting houses. And it really connects me to childhood. My great-grandparents had this amazing house. To me, it looked like a palace on a hill in the north of Israel. And with my sister, we always used to come there. We would find all of my great-grandmother jewelry and play. And there was a forest around that for us, it was like this mystery forest. And we would run with the jewelry and I talk about fairies. And that was always in me. And when my parents built their own house, a beautiful wooden house, I was really inspired as well how they built it, because it was inside a garden. And first the architect said, okay, we will have to take a few trees off for the house. And then my parents said, no way, we are going to build the house in a flow with the garden. And the result was a house that is very inspiring and out of the box, you know, in the way people design their houses. So the house is divided to two parts to make space to a mango tree and a macadamia tree. So it created this glass corridor between the trees that actually brings nature into the house. So by really being soft and listening to our surrounding, the house became even more unique and beautiful. And I think it has an influence with the way I think about movement and embodiment and our surrounding and how it comes into the research of knowledge and embodiment. And as a choreographer, how to really take little signs you see in the street and it comes into movement. it's really interesting because this is our temple in a way. So it's just a one outer layer of this structure, like this beautiful space where we are sitting right now. So you can immediately see, I don't know, even through the camera, but yeah, the space is giving this sensation of clear, clean, horizontal grounding. Yeah.
So you started creating as a child already, right?
The story is that when my mom was pregnant with me, I didn't want to get out. It was very comfortable inside her belly. So for 2 weeks, she was just walking around and waiting for me to come out. I wouldn't come out. She was already in the hospital. And then she heard that there will be Swan Lake on television. At that time in Israel, there was only one channel. And of course, there was no television for the women giving birth. So she was very politely asking from the nurses if she could maybe go into their room and watch this. She has to watch Swan Lake this evening. And they allowed her to come to the nurse's room and watch Swan Lake. And at that moment, I started to move like crazy inside her belly to dance, and I went out. And from that moment on, I never stopped dancing. I cannot remember any point in my life that I wasn't sure that knowing that I am a dancer. It was always obvious. It was never a question. It was there. It was the knowing. And my parents always said that it was really dangerous to put me even in a big bed in the corner without them being afraid that I will somehow roll and crawl to the other end of the bed. So I was always moving. It was this Swan Lake or, yeah. So this is when I started to dance. And create, I was always creating as well. Because I lived in this desert town, so remoted from everything, I had long bus trips to the ballet school where I was at. So, no smartphones. And I was just sitting on the bus almost every day for a long time. So I started these pieces inside my head, imagining the music, imagining different gesture of feet, of heart connection, of duets. And surprisingly, it was a lot with the music of Tchaikovsky, of Swan Lake, all the time in my background, like ta-di-da-da. Like really, that was my trips when I was 10 years old. I was always dancing. I would see a beautiful flower in the little desert town where I am, and I would start to dance with it. So it was always there.
So you went to ballet school, so you have that classical training, the ballet training.
Yeah, so my training actually started, I was very lucky, privileged. Already when I was 5 years old in this little desert town, there was a woman, her name is Ruth Kadmon. And somehow she lived in this small town, but she was an amazing improv, creative teacher. And my sister went to study with her, and my mother was in a small company that she created. And I remember, I think I was already like 3, 4. I was nagging her, please, I want to start dancing in your course. I really want to be there. I would come with my sister and just watch like this. And she was, no, you're too young. And again, like a week after week, no, you're too young. Till she said, okay. So she accepted me. So I started with her, an amazing woman. And it stayed with me, since the age of 4. I remember exercises that she used to give, like just imagine that you're a leaf falling from a tree, and what would be your slow movement down, or dancing with scarves, and all these things really stayed with me. I remember this leaf thing. It always stays with me, like this, from an eye or innocent eye of a kid to really, okay, now I'm a leaf. So how am I going to embody that? And it was for me like, I was in a state of, oh, like, wow, this is amazing. So, so that was the start. And when I was 10 years old, I got accepted to an RAD, like the Royal Ballet, like the Royal Academy Ballet School, which was amazing for the technique, but I felt that it was hard for me, coming from such a creative atmosphere to go to this really strict ballet school. And after 2 years there, my mom just pulled me out, and then I moved to a kibbutz. And I did my training in the kibbutz, that it was very open. So again, the strong base was ballet, but with a lot of creative and tap dancing and mime and jazz. And so it really opened my pleasure again from dancing. And when I was 13, I got accepted to a special program for artists, singer, actors, musicians, dancers, that would go for 3 weeks in the summer for a camp, a very tough camp. We would start at 8 o'clock and finish at 10 at night, dancing, 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 sleeping there. And they would bring really amazing teacher from all over the world. So I could really have ballet with a teacher from the NDT. Sorry for this. So a beautiful ballet teacher from the NDT and jazz teacher from the States. So that was really like igniting a very strong wave of this is what I'm doing from morning till night, and I love it. And then slowly, when I was 16, I got a call from a beautiful woman called Gabi Bar, and she told me, you're supposed to be a professional dancer. So please, you have to move to Tel Aviv, and it's time to really start your path as a professional dancer. So the whole family moved to the center of Israel, and I started dancing as much as I can. I just took every class that I could. And at the age of 17 and a half, I got my first more professional production offer. And from there, it continued.
When you were 19, you actually joined the Batsheva company, which is, you can talk a little bit about maybe what that company is or what the significance is of that company.
So at the age of 19, I got accepted to the ensemble of the Batsheva dance company, which is one of the lead dance companies in the world, with the amazing Ohad Naharin as the house choreographer. And that was really, I can say now from my age, that was really one of the biggest gifts I got as a dancer, because in a very short time, I got accepted. I was 19, and immediately being there gave me tools that it was how to be on stage, like even how I feel inside my soul when I'm just walking on stage, this energy to be aware of my back when I'm just there in front of the audience, or connecting to my animalistic power, creative power, strong technique, and just working with Ohad is a genius. So I could really observe how, already had this movement that felt so like I could not move different than this movement of Ohad Naharin. And I could observe that every few years he was giving again something new to the dance world, and again something new. And then came Gaga, and that was really putting me, anchoring me to this professional world in the most profound way. I'm very grateful for Ohad and for Batsheva. Yeah.
And so you were in productions with them, you toured with them?
Yes, yeah. I was with production with the Batsheva on tour. When we were touring in Australia, we were also with Bjork in the same hotel, like opening festivals, like really, really enjoy this. There's a lot of glamour in these years of dancing with the Batsheva ensemble, and yeah, big, big present for me. I remember the day that I got this telephone that I got accepted out of hundreds of people that are audition, and I just ran to the beach in Tel Aviv. I was just looking at it, and then I just jumped into the water with my clothes. Of course, it's Tel Aviv summer, so I was not wearing a lot, but I just dived into the water and just swam like I didn't know what to do with my happiness. It was really beautiful, really beautiful. And I can say till these days, there's something with Ohad Naharin that each time I get a gift from him, like he was there when I got married, and his wife at the time, Marika Jiwara, she was calling me a lot when I injured my knee, and then with the Gaga, and I just received so many gifts from this amazing, amazing genius person. Yeah.
So how many years were you with the company?
It was only 2 years, but then the connection stayed, till these days. But these 2 years are really, really intensive. I remember I was teaching a small part from the very famous piece called Echad Mi Yodea with the chairs. And then I was thinking, I was actually performing just this piece like more than 270 times. So it's 2 years, but like Israeli energy, it was very condensed. Like the work was performing everywhere and a lot, and rehearsing every day from morning till afternoon. And
I also happen to know that you met your future husband and father of your children there.
yeah, so I met the father of my children in the company. We were both 19. And in the beginning, I was just a guest dancer in the company for a video dance project. And we danced together in this project and started a love story. And then it was impossible to separate us. So we were known in the company to be this couple, and also there was an article about us when we danced in Batsheva about the couple. And then we had our own dance company, and we danced for other choreographers touring the world. And then we started to create productions, and 2 beautiful children that were touring with us everywhere in the world. We felt a bit like a circus family. Our children would fall asleep in the wings of the theater when we were performing. They had like a fairy, mothers as the dancers from the company, and fathers from the male dancers. It was a really beautiful sense of togetherness. And the children, again, talking about flow, they would just be with us. And even as babies, they would know not to call me if it's the middle of the performance. Even before they could speak, they couldn't understand this. Even in the studio, if we would run a piece, they would just, as babies, lie on their blanket observing us, and now we are not calling mommy or daddy. And when we would finish to run the piece, they would, mommy. They really understood the flow of their parents. And again, very privileged to have met my future husband and father of my kids, and to dance with him together. I could trust him completely, I would do these crazy jumps backwards, upside down, and I know that he would be there. We could know each other so well. And there was, of course, love a real authentic love. So it's really beautiful, and also, you know, as a mother, the fact that I didn't need to leave my kids when I'm touring in the world. It was just the whole family. This is our job. This is our work anyway together. So it was a whole family thing. Yeah.
Beautiful. So how was the work that you were doing with Amit? How was that the same or different from like the work you did together at Batsheva?
I think when we started working together, creating together as a couple, I just have to say that when we started creating together, it was after we were 2.5 years together as a couple. And when we were never having any arguments as a couple, like I remember my mom telling me, like, just start arguing, like, come on. But then when we started to create together, it was so passionate that we were just starting to argue and like, so on one hand, it was really igniting a lot of fire, like passionate about creation, and this is my opinion and this is your opinion. On the other hand, it was simply beautiful because the connection was so wonderful that I could feel almost that it was really 100% my vision and 100% his vision, and it was not really colliding. We could really weave it together without me like giving up on my ideas or him giving up on his idea, and it was just this, art of two different colors weaving, a bit like we were as parents, you know, we were like having the same vision as parents. So same with creation, with children, and for stage.
And you did, just in the aesthetics of the movement, you did explore an expression that was definitely different from.
Okay.
So, you know, like the piece I saw this morning.
Yes. So actually the first piece that Amit and I did together, the name of it was The Polish Women, in Hebrew, Hapolaniot, as one word. And in this piece, as it was our first piece, the first thing that I was concerned about was that the movement of Ohad was so embodied in my body and felt so perfect that I couldn't see myself creating something that is not that. And then my fear was that it would be just a very pale imitation of Ohad's creation. So all I did in the studio for the first piece of The Polish Women was to really break down the movement that I loved so much and in a way create the opposite. So it was very funny, it was very playful, it was very rockistic, you can say, underground Japanese music, industrial design, all kind of objects, more theatrical, electric guitar, color on the... So we went for the whole thing that would be something different from what we had in Batsheva. And after breaking this, we could find our flavor. That for each piece, it was a bit different with what we were dealing with our life at that certain time, or the political situation around, or... Yeah. But it was this first piece that we really need to play with it and break this perfect Batsheva movement in our body.
So was where you were going more dance theater-ish then?
At this specific, at the first piece, it was, we went more to a theatrical flavor in the piece. But the other pieces, it was just, it was in movement. It was changing all the time. We had a piece that was almost neoclassical. So it was, it was in movement all the time. Yeah.
And so it was the two of you with some pieces, for instance, the 32 minutes of love, and then there were also ensemble. You had your own company, right?
Yes. So Amit and I, we had our own company, and we were collaborating a lot with a dance company from Berlin, and we did this piece called Berlin Jaffa Kurzstrecke. So really like a short trip between Berlin and Jaffa, Israel, and so then the two companies combined together, and it was really short pieces combined from the German company and the Israeli company, and we wanted in a short time, like the haiku poems, like the Japanese, to bring an idea in a very short moment. So that was, the company grew bigger, and we were a lot working together, touring together. One of the pieces was more inspired by my work in the Gaza Strip, being in an NBO in the Gaza Strip. So that was a bit more political. The piece called 32 Minutes of Love that I have created with Amit came actually out of my love to Amit. Amit was facing a moment that he felt like a bit worn out with. You know, we were so young when we started with our own dance company. We were 23, 24. We already had our own dance company, and he did a lot of the bureaucracy. And at that moment he said, you know what, I cannot anymore. I want to just go back to Batsheva and just be a dancer, because this is what I am. This is what I worked on all my life to be. And then I told him, and then it came to me like, okay, no dance company for this project. It's going to be just you and me. And that just this name came to me, 32 Minutes of Love. I don't even know why, but it just came, and I didn't question it. There was something magical for me with the abstract, timeless thing of love, and to put it a bit more condensed, like 32 minutes of love, that you take something so precious and you have a small bite of it. And it was interesting that just recently, with my research about the Tree of Life and Hebrew numerology, that I learned that 32 is a very, very significant number. First of all, it's the number that represents the word heart in Hebrew, that I didn't know. And also the Tree of Life has 32 points and pathways. So the whole book of creation that was written 4,000 years ago, it starts with this sentence, and I created the Tree of Life with 32 wonders and pathways. So, and this Tree of Life became so much from my passion, my research, but I didn't know then. But that was the little duet that came at this period of time, and it really gave us so much pleasure after the pressure of being so young and handle this dance company and technicians and money, to just be the two of us in the studio and do something smaller. But we were really privileged to collaborate with an amazing filmmaker. His name is Yaron Binun. And the whole duet was actually a trio, with the creation of Yaron Binun, actually taking footages from our private life, sleeping in bed together, our bedroom, our children's room, so us working in the studio. So all this footage with a lot of nature came also on stage. So it was actually a trio. Yeah, trio of love.
Beautiful, thank you. So you were doing this until you moved to Berlin. So how did that transition came about? So you also in the middle of it, you were a lighting designer for a while. working for other companies as well, right?
Yes.
So you had your own company, but you were still also working for others.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe briefly touch on that, other companies, and then let's go to Berlin.
Yeah, so when I was 24, I had a big injury in my knee. I was in between touring Paris and doing commercial, and actually, when I was doing the shooting for a commercial, I hurt my knee. I injured my knee severely, and then I became a lighting designer, and I was working with different companies. And then I continued to design the light for my dance company. So that was a little like space. I also started to play the violin, a passion of mine that I had when I was a kid. So yeah, I was for a few years a lighting designer and a violin player. And we had our dance company actually till I moved to Berlin in 2012. And when we moved, we were really sure that we will continue to, like, we will establish a dance company there. But actually moving to Berlin, it was suddenly like, actually it's time for something else. And it was really interesting suddenly not to have this title of choreographer and performer, but just to be in the unknown. I did immediately started to teach in academies in Berlin, and I did still choreographers for different projects, but it was not this dance company. So yeah, that was a click to again have a break and be very open to learn something new, to observe other choreographers and not to be defined by being a choreographer, but just to have this step back and observing, and I learned a lot. Yeah.
So how did Berlin welcome you, or as a place, as a city? It's also, you know, always the question with the Jewish history to come back to Germany in a way. Why not come back to go to Germany? How was living in Berlin like, maybe as opposed to living in Tel Aviv?
I think because Israel is sort of a war zone, you can say, and Tel Aviv is so funky and such a party city, the speed is so fast. Everything is so fast. A Spanish friend visiting Tel Aviv, he said, wow, it seems as if people are doing in one day in Tel Aviv what Spanish people are doing in 1 year. So this is the speed of Tel Aviv. And then moving to Berlin, people told me, just be careful because you will feel suddenly the change would be such a shock in a way that you will feel laid back and just take care that you are not stopping to create and do what you do. And I was like, nah, come on, I really need a vacation. I'm always creating, it's always in me. But then it happened. Like I feel that a lot of my creative need was to, in a way, have a different reality from this war zone that I was so involved because I was in Gaza, in Palestine so much. And it was suddenly like, whoa, actually there's not this urge to create because it's a different, like really I felt this layback energy. And I really love Berlin. It was for me, because I did feel although, you know, coming to Israel after as a tourist, it's an amazing place, like amazing food, beach parties. You can really feel the beat of the city of Tel Aviv. But to live, this is my life. I really enjoy the green of Berlin, the 40% parks, the lakes, the politics and tension is not for me always part of the everyday life. As a Jewish being in Berlin, yeah, some people ask me if I feel something, if I'm sometimes attacked, and no, actually, most of the time it was just beautiful. I think the people of Berlin are actually doing a beautiful work in you know, learning from the past. And yeah, sometimes I could feel the difference of culture, you know, German bureaucracy and yeah, I could sometimes feel the difference of culture, that I could get a bit annoyed because this is a bit unfamiliar, right? And with Israeli culture, I already know it, you know. I can get angry at someone getting too close because Tel Aviv is like this, but I know it. It's like, this is my home. And then when you meet it in a different country, when you move, it's suddenly like, oh, come on. Like, this is a different culture. So, of course, it's natural. I had it. But in general, all the 9 years that I was in Berlin were simply really, really beautiful.
So you didn't create pieces in Berlin, but you were teaching. Teaching what? Teaching contemporary, teaching ballet, teaching, what were you teaching? Gaga?
I was still creating in Berlin, but it was not these stage productions that I am the main choreographer. It was, I created a lot to academies in Berlin. I was creating for a short film that was shot in Hamburg. I was creating for an amazing musician, Sasha CM, a beautiful British Norwegian singer. And we were actually performing this evening in Sadler's Wells in London, which is really one of the most established theaters. So it was still there. It was all the time there. But for me, it was different than having my own company. And this is what I do. So I was teaching in the beginning a lot of release technique. And then I started to miss home, in a way, Gaga. I started to miss this Batsheva, Ohad Naharin, Gaga language. And I wanted a piece of home again. So I wrote an email to Ohad and I said, Ohad, I miss home. And then I told him, actually, it's my wish to become a Gaga teacher. And I know that it's easy, it's not. You know, most of the dancers in the world would love to be Gaga facilitators. And then he just said, yes, like, sounds really good, but you will have to come for half a year to Israel to be again with the company, with the classes. And said, I would love to, I cannot, I have children. But anyway, we found a way, and I was home again with Gaga. And I became a teacher. But what I realized, that I was a bit terrified to really tap into, you know, as a Gaga facilitator, you stand in the studio and you allow yourself not to know. You allow yourself to first stand and feel the studio, feel the people, and then you start a journey. And I think I still had a fear in me, it was easier for me to still teach the technique that I was teaching. So I could do it. I was called from time to time to teach, but I was not full on in it. And it was only a year later that actually I had cancer. That again, my partner, Amit, the father of my kids, he asked me, do you really like your job? And it was funny, I don't know, but I was in this bed in the hospital, having this a bit of aggressive cancer, and suddenly he's asking me about if I like to teach in the academies, if I like my work. And then I told him, I'm not really connecting to teaching technique anymore and give grades. And at the moment I realized that I have to step into the place that I'm afraid of, which is to teach Gaga. But I have to go forward. And I called all the different academies that I was teaching in, and I resigned, actually. I just stopped to allow myself a new beginning. And then I started with Gaga in Berlin. And it was just growing in Berlin like mushrooms after rain. So we started with 4 classes a week. And Gaga was so welcomed in Berlin that we increased it to 22 Gaga classes in Berlin. And I really felt home. I really felt honest to my body, to my research, to to healing through movement, to really help others find their home, their bodies, their passion, movement.
Well, that begs the question, what is Gaga?
What is Gaga? Okay. Gaga is a journey of the body, a journey of movement. It's a free flow that the Gaga facilitator is dancing with the Gaga users and giving them different images. So the users of Gaga, they have their own movement, but inside their own authentic movement, the Gaga facilitator is taking the people into a journey of awarenesses, of images, of flow passing through the body, of how to ignite your own self-research into your body, the pleasure. In Gaga, we work in layers. So each time, if we start just with a sensation of the bones or the flesh or movement everywhere, we would add on this journey a layer after layer, so people can really be feeling their core, their spine, but still see everything around, feeling their skin touching their clothes. So we unfold layers of awareness. And what's really nice about Gaga, we meet a lot of pleasure with movement. So sometimes I love to give images like, as you move everywhere, feel as if you take a beautiful piece of dark chocolate, you put it in your mouth, and you feel the path of the chocolate going down. But in the same time, meeting this pleasure and moving everywhere, you don't want to close your eyes. So you don't want to keep the pleasure and collapse in a way to yourself. So in Gaga, we can really meet extreme pleasure inside, but we still want to be with the eyes open to really have this 100%, I'm here, I'm observing out, and 100% journey traveling inside our body with awareness, with observation. So this is Gaga.
So just before that happened, so the health journey, so that really seems like it was like a turning point.
4 years ago, my father, that was an amazing healer, reflexologist, he had a heart attack and he was in the hospital. I was between Berlin and France. And when I got this telephone call that he got a heart attack, something happened in my body, something collapsed, something started. And then I was flying to Israel and I was with him in the hospital, but my body in the same time, parallel to his, was collapsing. And I had to leave. He was still in the hospital. I had to leave back to Berlin and to go to the hospital. And I had what the doctors called cancer. And that, in a way, pushed me to combine knowledge that I had from studies that I did in the mystery school in London, and to really heal myself through the knowledge of the tree of life. And I remember even in the hospital, I would, if I could, get off bed, if I could stand, and really start to pass through my body, my knowledge, Kabbalistic knowledge, tree of life knowledge, shamanism, and combine it with touch of Gaga. And I would just do it at night when nobody would disturb me in the hospital, get off the bed, stand in front of the window, and start really slowly to go through the body with knowledge, with gate opening, different energetic point of the body. And it became a ritual. It became a ritual that I did for myself in my apartment, in the kitchen, before I go to sleep, if I was inspired. So putting the tree of life with the amazing movement of Gaga and do sessions for myself. I would do a ride. I would lose time and go on a ride with tree of life and Gaga for myself, till a very dear friend of mine, another Gaga facilitator, his name is Elvin, he told me, hey, you have a gift. I think it's time for you to share it with other people. And he was pushing me in the first lockdown to start my Zoom program with the healing embodiment, and to really bring out this knowledge of the Tree of Life and my research, and to share it. So that was the beginning of the key, actually. That was the first format of what we call now the key.
So I want to, just before we get more into that, just back up and talk about, how did you even get into those teachings in the first place, How did you learn about the Tree of Life or the Kabbalah, which is not something that you would just casually pick up walking down the street?
Yeah.
So how did that, how was your interest born in that in the first place? And then how did it meet you?
It's interesting because I am coming from a very atheistic family. So the word Kabbalah was like, okay, something that for me connected to religious, like to Judaism, that I was not at all there. And after moving to Berlin, Amit and I were separating in a very loving way, but still Berlin opened the doors to take a bit more distance from each other. And in my first visit in Israel after that, I felt that my children, Matan and Alma, they need a bit of support, and I wanted it to be in Hebrew. So I was looking for a healer according to the journey method of Brendan Bass, which is also really beautiful and a big inspiration for me as well. So I was looking for a journey healer. And there are a lot in Israel. But I remember I was looking at the website of the journey in Israel, and there were so many pictures of people, and I was just looking like this, and suddenly I stopped. And I have goosebumps when I remember this moment, because this woman that my finger stopped became a very significant woman in my life. And I felt, her. I want to go to her. And I called her. Her name is Shani Lehrer. And I told her, listen, I have these 2 kids. I think I would like to have a support journey for them. And she said, beautiful. I would give it to them with pleasure. But before I do that, there's a treatment called life activation and DNA activation that I think that should be the first treatment to give to anyone, to like ignite a connection, take some traumas away. And I said, okay, I'm intrigued, I'm curious. I want one for myself as well. So we travel to her, and we sit together, the 4 of us. And then Matan goes to get the healing in her room. He goes out, and it looks a bit like Buddha, like Zen. He just lies. He said, I have to lie down. He was lying on the sofa at Shani's house and immediately fell asleep, like so deep I couldn't waking up, and it was in the middle of the day. And then little Alma goes in, 1 hour, goes out, next to her brother, cannot wake up. Like really, like they had such a deep process that they were completely zoomed out. And then I go in and I sit, and I had 1 hour or 1 hour and a half of total meditation. She did all kind of things. My eyes were closed, but I felt energy starting to move in me like never before. And I said, okay, now I'm really curious. What was that? And she said, okay, that's from the teaching of the Modern Mystery School. And she said, if you're interested, I'm giving a sacred geometry course. And of course, as a choreographer, you say geometry, and immediately I'm getting excited, and sacred geometry. So I started with that, and it was beautiful. And then I found myself starting to travel to London and learning there all like kind of shamanic healing rituals, forces, angels, numbers, and came also the studies of the Kabbalah, of the Tree of Life, but not from a Jewish religious aspect, but from a universal aspect. And that was the beginning of a beautiful journey that I was so curious by, that I just continued my studies actually in Hebrew, because there is something significant about Hebrew letters and the studies of the Tree of Life. So it was very interesting to continue in Hebrew, although both are well. But I became a healer with a method called the Tree of Life healing. So it was deepening my research of the tree. And yeah, just till these days, I'm just continuing to study nonstop the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life is actually giving gates of awareness. If this part of the tree is communication, and this part between our thighs and knees, it's how we live, how we eat, how we do, how we manifest our dreams. If the right arm is unconditional love and the left arm is borders. So actually in my research of the Tree of Life, I use each gate and each opening to deepen my research in this area of communication. So it's nonviolent communication. If it's communication with our higher self, meditation. If it's, again, communication with ourselves and others, the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono. So I use the tree to actually, for myself and for the users of the key, to have a gate for wisdoms that are touching these aspects. What is gratitude? What is humility? What is being persistent with life, with willpower? So the Tree of Life is a beautiful key opener.
So what is the key, though? Is this a course of study? It's a one-time workshop? It's an ongoing exploration? What do people? Is it a dance class? Is it a meditation class? Is it a philosophical discourse, or all of the above? I happen to know it is, but So talk a little bit about the structure and the content. So what one would expect. Like if I had never heard of it, what would you tell me?
The key is actually a combination of three things. And all of the three things is things that are my passion and my talent since ever. So the first one is dance, embodiment, movement. The second one is knowledge. I'm really living for knowledge, to have more and more knowledge. And the third one is non-stop curiosity. And I'm putting the curiosity aside in a way, because I do feel the energy of curiosity is igniting our body with youth, with excitement, and I remember that when I was in the hospital, a friend asked me, "So are you afraid?" And I said, "No, I'm curious." And this curiosity really helped me out in a way, healed me. So this is why I really refer to the key as these three things, and they are combined together. So when meeting a key session, we would always tap into knowledge, which can be philosophical knowledge, Kabbalistic knowledge, Tree of Life knowledge, neuroplasticity, meditation. So all these gates, all these keys. And then all this knowledge would be absorbed in body, in our movement. So a key session is, part of it is a conversation, knowledge, and movement inspired by Gaga.
And the name happens to reflect those elements?
The name, the key, it's nice because, I say the key and I really imagine this old, golden, ancient key opening to this 4,000 years old knowledge, which is very exciting. And in the same time, I really embody this sensation, like I imagine keys turning inside my body and actually release a force of movement that is also a force of healing, a force of pleasure, a force of changing. So for me, the key is really a body sensation and gate for knowledge and sensation. So that's for me the key.
But the word itself.
Okay. Okay. The name, the key, also coming from simply K for knowledge, E for embodiment, and Y for Yaara, my name. So knowledge with embodiment, or knowledge and embodiment with Yaara Dolev. So that's the key.
Beautiful. So does somebody have to be a dancer to take this class, or a philosopher, or who is this offering for?
So the key sessions are not just for Kabbalistic scholars, philosophers, or dancers. It's really open for people that has curiosity and are open to embodiment and are very open to share pleasure, knowledge, embodiment, and healing. So you don't need to know anything in advance, just bring your healthy curiosity.
And what could be benefits of me taking this, participating in this journey?
So first of all, it's an opening a gate for ancient knowledge, which is always interesting. And this wisdom was born to be on our body, and we have to understand it. And it's always interesting for me, some Kabbalists that it's a lot about reading, but the tree of life is talking about the body. So it's calling us to be aware of our right foot, left foot, right and left, right side of the brain, left, the place above, the space, even it's talking about the space between the right side of the brain and the left, the front part of the brain, the back. So it really goes to beautiful, detailed journey inside the body. So it's meant for us to move it, to dance it. The tree of life is talking about movement. So there is a wisdom there that when we embody it, we understand keys to meet our full potential. And that's what it's there for. So the key is actually giving us an option to tap into our full potential, if it's coming to how we communicate, how we live our life, the food that we are eating, and especially I feel how to ignite the self-healing ability, each user of the key for him or herself. To tap into a space of pleasure, of fun, of knowledge, of understanding of ourselves, and to really dive into places that can be also sometimes challenging, but with this challenge come an option to really be the best version of ourselves. And I can also tell about some people that are writing to me after doing the key sessions, that there was a woman that was taking medicine for depression and another one for stress. And with different techniques of the key, with shaking, with knowledge, with gathering together and talking, she didn't need them anymore. So yeah, that's the key. It's first of all, an opportunity for people to meet, even if it's on Zoom or live, to meet and first of all connect the heart, because this is the teaching. The heart is the center of the tree. So first of all, the meeting of the key is us meeting with the heart, and then we open to knowledge and embodiment.
What I see about you in your work is that there are these elements, and the heart element is definitely a very beautiful and very important one. And I also happen to know that you're cultivating that actively in your life, in your interactions with the world, with other people, with friends, family, loved ones, or strangers, or the world, or the little butterfly, or the little ant on the sunflower.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about that for
Sure.
you? How kindness and heart and generosity, because these are all words that come to me when I look at you right now. Actually,
Yes.
How that is informing your choices and your life
Yes.
journey.
Yes. Yeah. There are some beautiful studies of the tree of life. It's a lot of knowledge, and it's a lot of books, and it's a lot of writings and research. But the most important, if I have to say in one sentence, the most important studies of the tree of life is love. And the most important fruit of the tree of life is and love your friend as you love yourself. And if we want to save the world, we all see what's going on around us. It's this fruit of the tree of life. So it's not about loving another person more than you love yourself. Like, let's say if you are stuck in the desert with someone, it's not about giving him the whole piece of bread and you die. It's really to take half to yourself, half to this person. So to really put it as love, So first of all, what it is to love ourselves, because we can do so much damage with communication with other people when we don't really learn how to love ourselves. And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. But this soft learning of connecting with ourselves and forgive ourselves, first of all, which is so hard, that's the most fine teaching of the tree of life, to forgive ourselves, to find the love to ourselves, and then in the same time see that all the people around us are our mirrors, and to love them as we learn how to love ourselves. And I think this is the most significant and beautiful part of the tree of life, and to understand this oneness, that in the end we are one, and we are one with nature. Cannot be not one with nature. We will stop to exist. And we are one with the air around us, and life. We are oneness in life. So to be a bit more kind, being kind to ourselves is being kind to others, being kind with others, to be kind with ourselves. Same. It's same. We cannot separate it. It's not a race that if I will be more rich, so good. No, it's we want the goodness for everybody. We want everybody to have good life, because we are one. It's like different parts of our body fighting. This is how I see humanity. It's so ridiculous to fight each other. What a waste of life. And in the end, we will all go down if we will continue this. So I really see the body as a representative of humanity, and then humanity, or even one cell, is a representative of the universe, right? There's a beautiful book by Deepak Chopra, The Body as the Universe. So each cell is a bit like space. So each human body is like humanity. So we don't want wars, we don't want fighting. We want to bring a bit more love. Yeah. So that's the most important knowledge of the tree of life. Here now you don't need to come to the course. You have it. No.
And you're also trying to live that. It's not just in the tree of life or in the classes. I mean, you're like, actually, I happen to also notice, in interactions with normal daily life, how, say something about that, how you approach that, because we all have shadows, and there's egos, and there's people who do things that we may not agree with, and like somebody cutting you off in traffic, or does it help you to be also in like normal life to, and how?
Yeah. Yeah, the studies of the tree really helps me to stay in this state of love and to know that everything that happens to me, you know, if someone is cutting me when I'm driving or I don't know, someone that is close to me is annoying me. So the study of the tree really allows me to realize that there are mirrors of things that I have to see, because probably there's something in me that I have to a bit put a light on a shadow that is there. And there's also a very significant study of the tree that is called bed tongue. And this is one of the most harsh thing a human can do according to the tree. Like, be careful. It's so easy to gossip. It's so easy to say something nasty about someone, you know, and sometimes you would be like attract attention because there's fire and people will gather around you to hear what you have to say, you know, if you gossip, if you say something. And we really have to be careful. Like, that's a big no-no with a tree. Like, don't do it. You don't know where your words will flow and make a really bad name for another person. So just to be a bit more aware and to take responsibility of what we actually say, this is already putting you in the beautiful center of the tree. And then I think something with my life, my parents always laughed at me that I'm this, they would say, they would take the word love and put it into a verb in a Hebrew way when they talked about me, because I could go in the street and see like an old woman that would have a pink lipstick, and I would be like, wow, this is so amazing. And I would come and ask her if I can hug her. So, and I would do it with different people. So my parents would say, yeah, she's like this. So yeah, I think there was a side also connecting to animals and cats, dogs, horses, chickens, cows. Like, there's a side that was always feel connecting and love. Yeah.
All the stray kittens at your mom's house.
A lot of kittens, a lot of cats through my life.
Sure.
Saving from the street. Lizards. Yeah.
Yeah, your mom told me that one. You're not living in Berlin anymore.
Yeah, so 8 months ago, I moved from Berlin to Portugal. And it was, in a way, a seed that came 4 years ago as well. I was just passing by a beautiful community in Portugal called Tamera, that are practicing everything that has to do with freedom of earth, connection, human, sexuality, education, water. And I just fell in love with the nature of Portugal. And I remember this day in the morning, I was just swimming in a lake in Portugal, and it was sunny. And in the evening, I was in Berlin again, and it was cold and rainy and urban and gray. And I felt, why to live my life like this in a city? And I think I was missing, again, a bit of warmth. But still, I already moved my children from Israel to Germany. So I felt at least to allow my son to finish his high school, and then I knew that I would move to Portugal. But then at the first lockdown, I felt I cannot be in a city anymore. I wanted nature. And then it was very spontaneous. I just decided I just move now. And we did, a bit like we did moving from Tel Aviv, Jaffa to Berlin. 4 suitcases, moving. When we moved from Jaffa, we just did like a garage sale to our friends with all of our possessions. And now I just left my apartment in Berlin, so it's there with my furnitures, and I'm here and starting new life in Portugal, in nature. And it's wonderful. I love it. And I, again, have ocean and pine trees that reminds me a bit of the north part of Israel where my parents lived. So it feels a bit like home, but without the tension that I felt as an Israeli, like Palestine-Israel conflict that I felt very involved in. So amazing.
You talked growing up in the desert, and now you live at the ocean. So, what's the quality? Is there the similarity? Is because I was surprised when you said it reminded you of home, because
Yes.
you shared earlier that you grew up in the desert, so now
Yeah.
this is not a desert yet.
Yeah.
So.
For me, there's something similar about desert and ocean. It's this vast horizon, you know, that there's almost like there's nothing, in a way you can say, human in front of you. It's just vast nature. But the desert part was the first 16 years of my life. And then my parents moved to the north part of Israel, and of course Tel Aviv, that it is about the ocean, and the north part has a lot of pine trees. So it's these things, the heat, the pine trees, the ocean, that feels a bit like home to me. Yeah.
And you're starting to also teach here, not just online, but also in person now, as that's possible. You're making local connections to what?
Yeah, so landing here in Portugal, I felt immediately hugged with a beautiful community here of musicians, healers, dancers. So I started quite fast to also teach live when it was possible. And I teach also in this amazing studio called Quinta Tenchi, run by the lovely Rita and Paul. And yeah, I really enjoy this balance. Still meeting people from all over the world through Gaga, teaching online, and through the key. And also a bit sensing this wooden floor being together, feeling each other in the studio. So I really enjoy starting this community of Gaga and the key in Portugal. Live.
So in a way, one of my next questions would have been, where do you see yourself going? But that's where you're going at this moment. So are you very much living in the moment, or do you have like, oh, this is my 2 year, I can look 2 years ahead, or 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead? Is there any visions that you have? Because, your children will at one point also be out of the house. Like, is there...
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there, are you thinking about the future? And if so, how? Or are you very much in the moment?
I think both, because I am very much in the moment, and I know that already in my life with movement, like literally moving between countries. But I do feel for the future that I would love to have this Berlin vibe of dancing together with Gaga in the studio here in Portugal, to bring it stronger into Portugal. And I do have a vision with the key that it's really something that more and more people will use to tap to this togetherness of the heart and knowledge and embodiment. And one of my fantasies is to have the key retreat center that people can really come to heal, and to come to heal with how they breathe, how they start their morning, how they drink their water, how they eat, how they dance, and how they are opening to knowledge, to old and very wise knowledge to heal themselves and for togetherness of the heart. So that's a dream for the future, to start with retreats for the key.
That you would lead, or do you imagine also other people? So right now it's you, obviously it's your work that you have developed and are developing.
The key is really my baby and really come out of my body and experience and passion. If I could imagine other people becoming a key teachers, and the answer is absolutely yes. Of course, like you give your baby to someone else, you'll be very careful with it, but you do want. I do want to share it. I would love to have more key facilitators, and I would be very curious to see how their keys are opening gates of awareness with this structure. I would be fascinated. Also, for me, each time I go for a ride of a tree, of the tree of life, starting with the feet, with the tree of life, and slowly going up to unfold the 10 points of the tree of life, each journey I am surprising myself, because each journey I'm in a different place. So also for me, as the founder of the key, each journey is different. So for sure, if someone else will take a journey of the key as a facilitator, I would be very curious.
Let's just hypothetically assume that dance was not your path.
Yes.
What else could it be?
Wow, what a question. What a question. If dance was not the path, it's really hard to imagine. But I am very passionate. So there are two more things that are a big passion for me. It's music. So to play music, because I feel that by playing music, I'm dancing. There's movement coming out of me into the instrument. So that in a way could be a big thing. And the second thing is horses. And I feel horses are very wise when it's coming to love. They can, there's a beautiful thing with horses, it's called like standing in quiet. They would do like once a day, they just gather and they just put their heads together with complete quiet. And they're just connecting with love. They really feel each other. And I remember seeing a vision of a horse that was a bit ill, and it was definitely not the alpha horse. So he was a bit like getting kicked from the other alpha horses. But then this horse got a little bit sick, and this horse was standing, and all the other horses in this manege were coming towards this horse and were just standing there quietly. And you can really feel the energy. You feel that now you're not coming closer to the horse. It's really their sacred moment. And the woman that I was with, she told me, like, listen, look, they're just giving healing now to this horse. So, yeah, horses, they were a big passion of mine. I think it really saved me through these high school years with all these dramas that we feel that every small thing is a huge drama. It's really saved me. I used to go and ride in the mountains sometimes before starting the day in high school. So horses and music, if I couldn't dance, I would dance through that. Like just the feeling of the body merging with the movement of the horse was art by itself. So yeah, these two things.
Are you still playing music sometimes?
Oh, it's hard to really call it playing. Yeah, I had a piano in Berlin that I had to leave behind me. And now a friend just gave me like a keyboard. So it's coming back slowly. But I wouldn't put a big word as really playing. It's a bit, it's there.
Your mom is actually a big supporter of everything you do. How's that for you to have her in your classes, to have her, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
in that field?
So yeah, my mom is coming to all the key sessions that I'm giving online. And it's quite interesting because it can be sometimes like triggering, because she's very honest and she would start a conversation that sometimes can, like, she's not afraid to question what I'm doing. And on one hand, it can be triggering. On the other hand, I think it's opening a very intimate sensation in the group and very honest. And everything is on the table. And I appreciate it so much, and I love her so much. And since ever, she was a big inspiration for me. I remember myself being 2, 3 years old, already having philosophical conversations with her about art, about poems, about architecture. Rembrandt is a big love of the two of us. So she was always there for us to have this very honest communication. So it's a continuation of that. And I think part of the journey that I did with myself with the Tree of Life, she was not really part of the more private journey that I had with it. So now she's facing some things that I bring to the class that are not natural for her, not so she's questioning that. But I think she's daring to ask or to put on the table what other participants are more polite about it and not putting it. So she's very daring, she's putting it. So I breathe deeply and I find it very interesting and actually a gift, because yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. And I feel very supported by having her there, so passionate to be there, to learn, to share. For me, the key session, they don't stop when I finish teaching, and they don't start when I start the session on Zoom. For me, the key is really a way of living. And when I give a session on Zoom, it's just a continuation of something happened to me that day or the day before. And I really enjoy, in a way, being inspired by the sessions myself to really practice what I want for other people as well. So it would be really what would be the first thought that I'm thinking when I'm waking up in the morning, if it's a thought of gratitude or, oh, I'm tired, or how I move my body still in bed with awareness of breathing, how I drink the water, like as the first thing, how I take care of the water that I'm drinking, making a connection, how I walk just barefoot in the garden to make this connection to earth. And for me, everything is a big present. It's a big gift to live it. And this is what I feel also tuned when I give the session. It's a continuation of this connection. How I am with my 2 teenager kids, that it can be sometimes a challenge, and yeah, how I very softly weave my connection with them through that. I don't say that it's always easy, but I feel also that when we meet something that in a way is not easy, this is also when we have an opportunity to learn more. And with every difficulty we meet in life, I feel there are always 2 paths open for us. So we always have the choice. Which path am I taking? I'm taking when I meet a wall, or I meet a difficulty, or I get insulted, and this helps me. This helps me to stay with this healthy curiosity and walk this path of life.